Yes, we've got the ATM's president, Vuyolwethu Zungula, who's joining us in studio. Thank you so much for your time. The president expected to speak tonight. Your expectations?
He must resign.
Is that it? And if he doesn't?
He must resign. If he does not resign on Tuesday, we are going to have that impeachment process going forward. And over and above that impeachment process, we are going to move for a vote of no confidence, because we can't allow a person who has been found by a competent independent panel to have seriously violated the Constitution, committed serious acts of misconduct, to remain in office. He's going to influence the investigations, he's going to manipulate the entire process. So the best thing for the country now is Mr. Ramaphosa having to step down and not being in office.
Do you think, though, you will have the numbers should he not decide to resign and it goes to Parliament and the 6th, come the 6th, do you think you'll have the numbers? Will you have some of the ANC MPs on your side?
There is no way, Sisbongiwe, a person, a member of Parliament that took an oath to protect and uphold the Constitution would vote to protect a person who's been found to have seriously violated the Constitution. But over and above that, we have put a request to the Speaker that the voting must be done via means of a secret ballot. That will to ensure that members of Parliament are protected from being given party directives that will actually make them not to vote with their conscience. And by doing so, we definitely believe there will be more than 50% of members of Parliament who will vote in the defense of our Constitution and in the defense of our people.
Remember that court ruling, though, put it at the Speaker's discretion when it comes to granting of a secret ballot. And if she decides to use her discretion here and says that she's not going to grant this one, then what happens? We're
going to push her. We're going to engage her, push her. Even this morning in the programming committee, we raised it as the ATM. And what the Speaker said was she would need a formal request from the party. That is the only way in which it will be considered. So based from those words, we are optimistic that the Speaker will understand the gravity of the allegations against the President and the importance of members of Parliament actually voting with their conscience, given the seriousness of these allegations.
And talking about the seriousness of, these allegations, when one reads through the report, you can see that there are still some matters that even the panel itself admits that they never got to get information, some clarity around. You think about issues around the South African Reserve Bank, for example, and I wonder, because of the information that the panel had and may not have had in some of the instances, what then becomes of the other investigations that are still pending in this particular matter?
Look, the purpose of the panel was to examine, based on the evidence that was before them, whether prima facie evidence is there that the President may have committed these violations. And the panel has come to that conclusion. Now, this is actually an indictment on the other institutions, your SARS, your Reserve Bank, your, all of these other institutions, because from June, when this was made public, we're in December now, not even one has come out. Hence, in the report, even the report states, the dissatisfaction from the panel about the lack of action, the lack of those institutions actually coming and giving any report or any confirmation to the public whether wrongdoing has been done. It goes back to that point of ours that as long as Mr. Ramaphosa is in power, he's going to manipulate the processes, because all of these institutions, he is the one that appoints who is the governor of the Reserve Bank, the heads of the Chapter 9 institutions, etc. This panel, unfortunately for him, came as a result of people that are not in his pocket, people who are not begging him for a job. That is why immediately he resigns. I can assure you, the Office of the Public Protector, the Reserve Bank, are going to be emboldened, and they will be able to issue those reports that actually show that Mr. Ramaphosa committed the gravest sin on the constitutions and our laws.
The Democratic Alliance is calling for an early election should the President decide to step down, and they're saying that for them there needs to also be a dissolution of Parliament. Will you support that call?
Not at all. Look, the issue is one person, Mr. Ramaphosa, who has violated the Constitution. We do not have a constitutional crisis because Parliament is functioning, the executive is functioning. There is only one individual that has committed all of these misdemeanors. Therefore, you cannot now want to dissolve Parliament based on the misdemeanors of one person. The DA must focus on this person, which is Ramaphosa, hold him accountable instead of wanting to deflect about the national elections because their party, which is Ramaphosa, has failed them.
And I'm told we're almost out of time. Let me ask you about this particular matter, which also doesn't relate to Phala, but it's breaking news at this hour. Janusz Walusz is going to be staying behind bars until he gets medical clearance. What then becomes the reaction of the ATM?
You know, that person is supposed to stay in jail up until he dies. Firstly, we are well aware that there are political prisoners who are still in prison now, but how do you release a person who almost plunged the country into civil war? You know, the Constitutional Court, in my view, had a judicial overreach by that judgment, and they did not take into account the family of Mr. Hani. They did not take into account the community of the ACCP. Hence, we believe that he must stay in jail up until he dies. He must not be allowed to go to Poland, where he'll become a free man. He must stay in our prisons up until he dies. All
right, Vuyolwethu Zungula, that is the ATM president, joining us in studio. Thank you so much for your time. And